Caught in a whirlwind romance at 18 with Abby, my 30-year-old teacher, I found solace in her arms despite her struggles with infertility and a husband. It was hot, she said after our secretive kiss. Now, as finals loom, I can't stop thinking, can love conquer this chaos? Before you say anything, this is all with consent. I met Abby in school, which I attend, and interestingly enough, perhaps you have guessed it, she is my teacher. She is an attractive, funny, and sympathetic woman who possesses a good heart. We first began our conversations during sessions where we discussed my personal issues, which were quite serious, such as being thrown out of my house for an entire night and having to sleep in a bush so that people would not see a younger man on the street, especially at 2 a.m. Abby provided me with her number so that I could text her whenever something happened or if I needed to share what was on my mind. However, I opted to email her instead, as texting her directly felt like an invasion of her privacy, not mine but hers. During one session, I inquired about her, asking, "What about you? How are you doing?" She was taken aback because no one she assists with their problems had ever asked her that. She opened up about her past, which I will not detail here to respect her privacy. On New Year's, I texted her to wish her a happy new year, and she replied an hour later, sharing that she had unfortunately suffered a miscarriage. I tried to reassure her that everything would be all right and advised her to spend time with her family to take her mind off things, expressing that we would talk again when we returned to school. A month went by and we had another session. I was the one who consistently reached out to see if she had time for a session. During this meeting, we discovered that we both loved UFC, the mixed martial arts fighting sport. That night, I sent her a TikTok edit featuring some UFC fighters. The next day was Saturday and I woke up quite late between 12 and 1 p.m. to her texts. I replied and she responded immediately. That was when we engaged in a 3-hour texting session that felt like just 20 minutes. This pattern continued over the following days. One time she went to a club with her friends. Teachers do that too, and I texted her to check if she was okay since the club opened at midnight and she needed to catch a train at 7 a.m. to return to her town. It was the weekend, so I could afford to stay up late, wanting to know if she arrived at the club safely with her friends. I was aware that she had a husband who was supposed to accompany her and her friends to the club but ultimately decided not to go. No one knew that Abby was communicating with another guy. I'm not even going to mention that it was her student. At 2 a.m., I could hardly keep my eyes open, so I texted her to enjoy herself and mentioned that I had to go. The next morning, I reviewed my messages and found a deleted message along with one stating, "I got home." Around 7 a.m., I knew she was still out, as she would always text me good morning by this time, but I did not receive one from her. When she woke up, I asked if she had a good time and what the deleted message said. She dismissed it, claiming it was something trivial and not important. The following day, we resumed texting, and she brought up a scandal involving a gay teacher who had an intimate relationship with his student years ago at the same school. Interestingly, the student was actually the cousin of my classmate John, who probably remained oblivious to the situation. I became suspicious about why she mentioned that, albeit in a playful manner. My curiosity, combined with the fact that I was a virgin, made me very interested in the conversation. She advised me not to analyze it, but I did, and I still do not know why I said what I did. To this day, I regret it, but I asked, "Are we going to have sex?" There was a long pause and I felt incredibly embarrassed. Regretting my comment, I suggested we should probably do our own things and go to bed since it was around dinner time. She said it was okay and that I should not feel bad, agreeing that was enough for that day. However, she confessed that the deleted message while she was at the club was that she wanted to kiss me. The next day, I only sent her a good morning text and did not message her again, likely due to my embarrassment. In the evening, she texted to check if everything was okay. An hour later, she called me, but I did not answer, not because I did not want to, but because I was talking to my parents. I texted her to say I was fine and asked if she was okay, but she did not reply. The following day was a school day and I was genuinely sick. I had a real illness. I decided to call her before she arrived at school since I knew the exact time she got to work. She explained that she thought I was simply playing a joke on her with my friends, claiming to be close with the attractive teacher, if you catch my drift. I assured her that I would never do that and that it was a silly misunderstanding. We both began to giggle at how foolish we were, and suddenly she was happy again, as was I. A few days later, we reached a point where she was very shy about a proposition, but she texted me that her husband would be away for 3 days during the summer and asked if I wanted to hang out outside of school. I replied in a rather foolish manner, saying sure, to maintain an aura of mystery and nonchalance. 2 days later, I contacted her again, suggesting we could do it that weekend or whenever she was free. She seemed surprised but agreed. We met up, drove around a bit in her car, parked somewhere and talked. I could sense she was very nervous while I was not as anxious. Eventually, we found ourselves gazing into each other's eyes and she randomly said, "Do it." I froze and suddenly my nerves hit me hard. I felt extremely shy. She repeated it 2 more times, "Do it." I knew she meant to go in for a kiss, and although I desperately wanted to, I felt too bashful. I told her she could assist me somehow, so she rested her head on my shoulder and complimented my bracelets. It was in that moment that I lifted her chin and went in for a kiss. We kissed for literally 15 minutes straight, intensely and beautifully. Unfortunately, she had to leave afterward, dropping me off. She texted me saying she had this indescribable feeling and that it was exhilarating, and I echoed the sentiment. I felt incredible, more confident, and of course, only Abby and I were aware that this took place. The following week, we arranged for a second date, which culminated in me asking if I could see her breasts and if she would perform oral sex on me. I have no clue where I found the confidence to ask that, and just so you know, it was her first time asking for that on a second date. It became more than just a relationship. We connected emotionally and through similar life experiences, despite the fact that she is 12 years older than me. This age difference did not change anything for either of us. Months passed and we had sex and many sleepovers, which, when I think about it now, seems quite unbelievable because her husband or anyone else suspected nothing. During one of those sleepovers, we grew emotional, and she confided that she still wanted to become a mother. She shared that in the summer, which was 2-3 months away at that point, she would undergo a process where she has to inject her abdomen with hormones. Doctors would retrieve her eggs and implant the strongest ones with her husband's sperm because Abby and her husband had been struggling with infertility and unable to have a child for 2 years. We both cried, but when I coldly responded, "This isn't a movie," I inadvertently made her cry, which was not my intention, but it was the truth. I loved her then and I still love her now, however I struggle with brutal honesty. I am very forthright and our relationship was built on trust, although sometimes she did not appreciate the way I expressed my thoughts. I admit that sometimes my comments may sound harsh, but I never intend for them to come across that way. Months went by with no news about her process, until September when she texted me to say she had been struggling mentally, and that she and her husband decided to begin the process in December before Christmas. For context, I had traveled to a different country to see my family. However, instead of being there for a week or two, I ended up staying a whole month due to being scammed by someone not relevant. I hadn't seen her for a month, and she hadn't seen me either. This led her to run away from her home and husband, spending a few days at her mother's house to contemplate whether she wanted to pursue life with her true love or build a family. When she texted me that she decided on the latter option, I comforted her, acknowledging how difficult it must be, and wished I could be with her to talk face to face. Upon my return, we made plans to meet. I asked her, "So what's going to happen?" after we had completely ignored the subject of her previous text for an hour. She indicated that she was in a bad place mentally but reaffirmed that the December plan was still on. Being with her was incredibly relieving. I cherished the opportunity to hug her and kiss her, and she felt the same. When December arrived, she began taking the injections in her abdomen, which caused her physical and mental discomfort. Despite this, we still didn't want to part ways. In January, the school organized a ski trip, and Abby was assigned as a coordinator. When I informed her that I would be attending, she became incredibly excited. I only wanted to go for her sake and to ski together. During our conversations, we expressed our desires humorously, fantasizing about her having her own room near mine. We both knew I would share a room with friends, though. The ski trip lasted only a weekend, but when we arrived at the location, Abby actually had a separate room, distinctly 3 rooms away from mine. Incredibly, during both nights, I managed to sneak into her room and we had sex while other students slept nearby. It felt wild. Besides the amazing sex, we truly felt something special for each other. I cannot articulate it, but even though I do not have as much experience with women as she does with men, we both sensed this extraordinary connection. Returning from the ski trip, we texted throughout the night, expressing our gratitude for one another and declaring our love. I didn't attend school the next day because I was extremely fatigued from skiing and lack of sleep, but she did, given her job. Later that day, she came to see me and we had a meal together, followed by making love. However, we also had a conversation about our future. She mentioned that this was the last time we could have sex as she didn't want me to maintain that image in my mind while she was officially pregnant. I understood, although I felt very sad, truly sad, and she did as well. She cried and I held her in bed and we just lay there together. Eventually, she had to leave, and for weeks we texted about how much we missed one another, making it increasingly tough to see each other at school. I was uncertain if we had broken up, but my feelings for her had not changed. Now it has been over a month since she has attended school because her doctor from the clinic, regarding her process, has restricted her from working until she feels better and has improved symptoms, as she bled a few times from her vagina and was anxious that it could be a sign of another miscarriage. Currently, we only text, but the energy is lacking. Our messages feel quite dry and neither of us enjoys texting. I have visited her twice, which once again led to expressions of love and mutual fear. She desires to be a mother and loves me too, but while I want her happiness, I still wish to be together with her. I understand that I cannot become a father at 18, which is why she prefers to have children with her husband, as he has been the one advocating for this process. Furthermore, I should mention that my mother has met Abby multiple times owing to Abby assisting us with our moves, and they established a friendship, making this situation even more complicated. However, we maintained our relationship a secret. I need guidance on what to do. I love Abby, I love her deeply, she loves me too, I feel fulfilled in her presence complete. I genuinely think I have found the one, I know this situation is complicated and I am uncertain how I found myself in it, but here I am. I am currently grappling with feelings of smiling depression. I do not mean to be melodramatic. I know the term depression is often used when someone feels sad for a few days. I sometimes struggle to sleep too. My finals are approaching and I fear I may fail them, landing just below the minimum required score. I do not know what to do next. You may criticize Abby for possibly taking advantage of me, but that is simply not accurate. I recognize that people my age often act impulsively and may regret their decisions, but I was fully aware of what I wanted and chose to be with her. Story 2. My friends ghosted me for months after I helped them pass their course. Confused, I poured my heart out only to hear, "I don't want to disturb you." Now my calls go unanswered and I feel alone again. Can I salvage this friendship or is it time to let go? Context and backstory. I have never experienced successful relationships or friendships because I struggled to connect with most people. My circle of friends was very small and they moved out of the country, so I do not communicate with them frequently. Last year, I enrolled in an online educational course where I made several friends, or so it appeared. I have consistently been the top student in my class, and now that the course is concluding, I realize that most people just took advantage of me and then left. However, two friends remained. Let us refer to them as a 24 years old female and M, 26 years old female. They were different from the others, kind and understanding individuals. Since I am emotionally sensitive, I bonded with them easily. In my 27 years of life, they were the first to ever send me a cake for my birthday, which meant the world to me. I am quite expressive, so I let them know how much they mattered to me. The problem. M's birthday was the month following mine, and I planned extensively, gifting her a silver necklace. All of our interactions took place online through video calls, and we have never met in person. However, when I called to wish her well, she did not answer, likely because she was busy. The next morning, A told me she had spoken with M all night. I felt confused because I did not see a missed call or a text from M, even though I had called and left her a message the night before. This issue continued to grow. I noticed that they spoke to each other every day while I was increasingly sidelined. We had our own group on WhatsApp and Discord, but they began taking weeks to respond to my messages. I realized this was because they talked to each other and no longer felt the need to communicate with me. I politely confronted them a few times about how I felt, but they did not seem to care much. Their response was simply that they were girls who talked more, which I did not mind. I clearly stated that they could communicate as often as they wanted, but I felt left out and unwanted, and I would appreciate being included or even spoken to individually as they had done in the past. Nothing changed as a result of this. They would reach out to me only when they needed assistance with the course, and I would help them, as that was the only time I could converse with them. I understand how inadequate that sounds, but please bear with me. Eventually, I asked them to call me in the morning to wake me because I was having issues with my alarm. She agreed, but later backed out, claiming it felt like a chore to her, unaware of all the times I had gone out of my way to assist her. I felt hurt, but it did not break our friendship. However, when the final project of the course commenced, I became very focused on it because I wanted to do my best. As a result, I did not speak to anyone for a month and a half, and during that time, I realized they had not made any effort to call me either. This realization caused me significant pain because they had not behaved this way before. I called her to discuss my feelings. She said she did not want to disturb me during my project because she knew how important it was to me. That made sense, but I sensed something was off. She was not communicating in the same way she used to. She ignored our inside jokes, and I noticed that she kept texting someone else while we were talking, which made me feel unimportant. She mentioned that she would try to initiate a conversation in our inactive group and that I should engage with M to help us reconnect. I attempted this, but after 2 messages, they ghosted me again for a week. At this point, I had enough of feeling unwanted. I left the group. A month passed and they did not reach out to ask why I had left the group. I have been in emotional distress ever since because I still care for them greatly, and I regret allowing them to become close to me. I have spent countless hours each day reflecting instead of working on my projects. They seem completely unfazed by my absence and appear to be quite happy. We had made many plans for when they would attend the graduation, which will take place in about a month. I do not know what to do. I feel painfully low each day, knowing that the two people who meant everything to me have sidelined me for no apparent reason. Today, I realized that I could not continue wasting my time and energy on this situation. Although my self-respect suggested that I should move on, I could not do so without answers. I decided to call them individually, of course. They did not answer my calls, or replied to my text as though nothing was wrong, which I perceive as gaslighting because I have been miserable due to their behavior. M also responded, stating she would call when she had time, which was 5 hours ago. I need advice on whether my feelings are valid and what actions I should take. While I typically prioritize self-respect, I made the mistake of lowering my guard and allowing them into my life, which has left me feeling extremely vulnerable. The fact that I reached out to say I was sorry for a few mistakes of mine and that I was hurt by their behavior, expressing a desire to resolve things, only for them to respond lightly and show indifference after 3 months of my isolation, makes me feel unwanted in their lives for reasons unknown to me. I share this now with significant anxiety, uncertain of how to address this situation because all I desire is the return of our old friendship, where I am treated with equal importance. I do not possess the social strength to make new friends, I truly do not. Please provide help if someone is reading this. I lack anyone to talk to and Reddit is my only outlet. TLDR. I am a 27-year-old male seeking advice on a toxic friendship. I had a close online friendship with two women, 24 years old female and 26 years old female from an educational course. I increasingly felt left out, ignored, and disrespected despite my efforts to communicate. After confronting them, they began gaslighting me and grew distant. I want to reconcile, but I am uncertain if my feelings are valid or if it is merely attachment. I am struggling with anxiety, vulnerability, and social isolation.